Hump Day. Welcome in. It is Wednesday, May 15th, midway through the week. I am Marsh, joined on the SimWorld today by Siege. Welcome in, Siege. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy hump day. May it be the best hump day for you yet.
Lofty expectations. Well, lofty expectations last night from the Indiana Pacers. And boy, did they not deliver as they get steamrolled on the road by a seven-man rotation with the introduction of Alec Burks to save the day as the new seventh man in New York. A absolutely dismantling, throttling, embarrassing, insert adjective that ends in ing that you like to put here, and the New York Knicks are one win away from advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals after a no-show from the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty bad if you're the Pacers. Doesn't look good. You got to remember the Pacers got a pretty relatively young team. I mean the Knicks do too. Um, but I I don't really know what happened to them last night. You know the Knicks have got a lot of injuries going on. Like you said, down to a seven-man rotation, including Alec Burks. Who look, I'm not gonna say Alec Burks isn't a great NBA player. He's had a pretty long career already, and he's been a rotational piece for a lot of different teams. But whatever the Pacers did last night, they got to figure something out before Game 6, or this one could be over if it goes anything like it did last night.
Well, of course, by mathematics, if they don't figure out in Game 6, the series would be over. But this is another example. Let's start with the Knicks side. This team just out hustles you. This team just out hustles. They do the small things. This is not a team that's going to beat you with star power. Yes, Jalen Brunson was 18 to 35 on his way to 44 points. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and start considering Jalen Brunson better than Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving. He's probably at the Jamal Murray. He's probably better than Jamal Murray right now. But what this team does is
I
they
take him
just
over
go
Jamal.
out and get extra. You said he's better than Jamal Murray? Or you
I,
take
I would
Jamal
take
Murray?
I would take him over Jamal Murray right now.
Yeah,
I think
I think that's
in a holistic view, maybe not in the clutch, but in a holistic view, I think I'd take him over Jamal Murray right now.
yeah, I think that's probably the barometer, right? It's an All NBA point guard. Jamal Murray's not an All NBA point guard, at least not consistently. But anyway, that's not the point of the conversation. The point is that last night they had 20 offensive rebounds to the Pacers 5. They forced 18 Pacers turnovers to their 9. They go out and they do the dirty work. They go out and you watch it. You took away OG Anunoby and you thought, hey, this team's going to struggle. No, because Josh Hart assaults the glass. Dante DiVincenzo assaults the glass. Isaiah Hartenstein hasn't met an offensive board that he wouldn't immediately marry if he possibly could. This team out hustles, and I think it's an embarrassment that the Indiana Pacers knew everything that was coming in. They knew what this team has. It's a dog pinned in the corner, barring its teeth, and they took them conceivably, or it appeared to be lightly, and they just got absolutely torched on the road in a game that they should have won. Easily, they should have won that game, and yet they did not show up. I don't know if that's coaching. I don't know if that's players. I don't know if that's organizationally. They just didn't look prepared last night to face the New York Knicks in any capacity, particularly the hustle that New York consistently brings.
Well, there's no better hustle player in the league than Josh Hart. You named a lot of guys who hustle
Yeah.
hard, but this Knicks team, they built a culture all year of hustle and get the ball to Jalen Brunson, and it works for him. It works for him. I don't know if it's something that can work long term, and I guess when I say long term, I really just mean the rest of the playoffs. Um, but it could get them a win in this series. So you take it one series at a time, see if they can get any of their other guys back healthy, and maybe at least get back to an eight-man rotation. But we'll find out. We'll find out.
Yeah, not to dismiss the fact that they are one win away from the Eastern Conference Finals, because that's hard to do. That is hard to do in the SWBA to get to the conference finals, to win 8 games before you lose 4. That's very hard to do. But when you look at the two teams that they played, the 76ers and now the Pacers, neither of those teams jump off the page for me as dogs, right? None of those guys might like, yo, 76ers. That is a bloodbath of a matchup when you face them. It might be a bloodbath because Embiid's throwing elbows at 6'4" guys at his 7 foot whatever he is. That's the only way that's a bloodbath. And these have been favorable matchups from a hustle perspective for the Knicks. I actually think a hustle perspective is probably beneficial for them if they were to face Boston, which it seems kind of like we're on the collision course for. But if I look across at Oklahoma City, Denver, and Minnesota, I don't think any of those three are hustle matchups. Hold on. All right, we had to suppress the sneeze. All right, we're headed to the Western Conference where it's Denver. We didn't want to sneeze on live air. We don't want that. Head over to Denver and Minnesota where the Nuggets host a massive second half. They close out the third quarter with a ton of aggressiveness. They run away from the Minnesota Timberwolves 112-97. Massive night from Jokic, who had his fingerprints over every part of that game. 40 points, 7 boards, 13 assists. Aaron Gordon was cooking. Contavious Caldwell-Pope couldn't miss. Christian Braun gave him a boost off the bench. This was last night, Siege, the type of Minnesota Timberwolves, or excuse me, Denver Nuggets game that you expect to see. This is what we thought we were going to get from game one. They got punched in the mouth in games 1 and 2. They responded, and once again, they look like the team that should be favored to win the SWBA championship.
Absolutely. This is the Nuggets team that we expected to see all SWBA playoffs. I don't think you could have said it better. All those stats you list about Jokic, also 0 turnovers. I mean, it's almost like he came out and he just did exactly what you expect Jokic to do. He even had a fast break dunk, which we don't really see from him a lot. So it was a special night for Jokic. I love to see that, but I think what's crazy is he, like you said, went down 2-0 to begin the series, and they came back and they responded. And I think what we're seeing right now is that experience that the Denver Nuggets have. They've been here before. They've been to the finals before. They've won the finals before. The Timberwolves are a team with not anywhere near as much experience as the Nuggets have. And I think people discount how much that can affect a playoff series. And I think we're seeing it heavily affect this playoff series right now.
Yeah, I think it's if you look at Denver, despite the fact that yes, they are champions last year, it's not like they went through a gauntlet to get there, right? They played Indiana, or excuse me, they played Los Angeles in the conference finals in a series that was the greatest sweep of all time and the most competitive sweep of all time. Before that they played, I can't remember who off the top of my head, but they played Minnesota in the opening round. Minnesota gave them a fight through 5. They played Phoenix. That series was 2-2 before they pulled away. They hadn't faced, and then obviously Miami was what it was, but they hadn't faced a real adversity moment in their run last season. This was it, and they responded in a way that proved that it didn't matter if they were up 2-0, down 2-0, 3-1 in either direction. This is a team that you simply can't rule out. And Jokic, I think, would have to be the most frustrating player to play against because, to your point, he lumbers up the court somehow for fast breaks. He throws perfect 90-foot dimes to Jamal Murray like he's Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. And then my favorite moment of this game was it was midway through the third. It's the start of this kind of steamrolling that they go on a run to make it like an 18-point game by the time of the early fourth. And I think he's got either Gobert or Towns on him, and he just stands on the three-point line on the right wing. Doesn't even look like he wants to do anything and just chucks up a three and buries it. And if I'm playing against him, I'm like, you look like the dad that's just a little tired from playing with his kids, doesn't feel like driving, so you say, screw this, I'm going to chuck it. And he just nails it. And if I'm playing, what else am I supposed to do here? It is
He
just
does it every
unfair to
time.
go against Jokic.
He does it every time. He's the most effortlessly looking. He makes basketball look more effortless than I think I've ever seen it look, and not in a he's so talented way, but in a like uncle at the cookout kind of way. Like he really just chucks those up. He was 8 for 9 with Rudy Gobert, the defensive player of the year, as his primary defender. And that's not to say that Rudy Gobert isn't a great defender. It's just to say, what do you do? What do you
Right.
do? Like you said, what do you do? How do you guard him? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. So
No, and the funny part is that, you know, retrospectively looking at series is one of my favorite things to do because we're prisoners of the moment. We say, "Oh my God, this happened! Can we believe it?" And in those game one and game two performances, game one it was wow. Here comes the size. Here's Minnesota, Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. They've solved Jokic. Game two, the blowout with no Gobert. Oh man, look out. Look at the size. And then the last three games, it's like it does not matter. It simply does not matter. Jokic is a savant on the court. He figured out, and the worst thing that happened to Minnesota is that they had that 3 to 4 game break between game two and game three, which gave Malone Jokic time to figure out how do we beat this team? How do we beat what they're throwing at it? It gave Murray time to get healthy, which has been incredibly pivotal. And since then, these games have just not felt like Minnesota's going to take anything, right? Anthony Edwards was really struggling. Towns had a nice night, but like you said, Jokic when he's going up against Rudy Gobert to be that efficient, the game's over at that point. All right, let's head to some prep action where Rocky Mountain Monsters. Holy moly, how about a defensive fourth quarter from them? We haven't seen that. 4 points allowed in the fourth on their way to a 73-56 win over Bay Area Breakers, coming on the day that Justin Bell announces his commitment to Villanova. He has 17, Dink Paint with 19, and Rocky Mountain bugs their way through a massive win over Bay Area Breakers last night.
Yeah, Bay Area is such an interesting team ever since, they had all the things go down with their organization, run with a 6-man roster, not because they like a 6-man rotation, but because they have six guys on their team. And they've gotten some, it's, Coach Pope's turning into Tom Thibodeau, but not by choice. But it's interesting because, while they have gotten some wins still, they've actually had a decent record ever since that all happened. But you really go into a game with them and you should expect to win. This Rocky Mountain Monsters team, yes, they're a little inconsistent. They're streaky. They go on win streaks. They go on loss streaks. But the talent is there. The rotation is there. The size is there. The athleticism is there. Dink Pate is there. Dink Pate, I don't think gets the shine he deserves. That's a shifty guard who is going to have a lot of success in his career if he keeps going the way he's going. And ultimately, Justin Bell was the best player on the floor. He usually is the best player on the floor when he plays, and he showed it last night. I think the fact that this was the game of the week maybe fooled some people into thinking that it was not as big of a divide between these two teams as what it is. And Rocky Mountain was not fooled.
Yeah, I think that the Dink Pate conversation, I think stems from just the fact that this team's been up and down, and then you're also fighting with the fact that you mentioned it. Justin Bell is a top recruit. He's going to take the shine of anything that goes on. It's not a program like, let's call it Philadelphia, right? Where one, they're a lot better. Two, you've got Monte Parson who's been cooking, but he's been so good and they've been so good that it kind of has stolen some of the limelight away from Nas Hall having a great season. It's just not the case with Rocky Mountain. A big part of this was the first kind of stinker that we've seen from Adonis Knight since his ascension to the top spot. I mean, you look at over the past month since the end of April, he's been really, really good, especially over the last couple of games. He hasn't shot below 43% since, March 29th. Last night he struggled. 6 of 22 for 27%. So big part of that, you kind of wonder, is this steamrolling or this roster construction that they've been forced into? Is that taking its toll now on Bay Area? But yeah, Dink Pate on the other side, back to that, a phenomenal performance and a must-win game, I think, for Rocky Mountain to just be able to kind of continue to gain that momentum. All right, let's head to our wrap-up. We had, of course, five games in action last night. We're going to start out in Run DMV Latin America. Red Jointer, a good night, not enough. Charles Pinkard, 14. Cam Jones, 12. John Hudgens, 10. They had 6 guys score at least 8 points last night. VJ George with 8 assists and a 77-61 Run DMV win on the road.
Gotham Fog traveled to take on the Beasts of the East, the reigning champs, and it started off pretty competitive with a good first quarter, but Beasts of the East just kind of imposed their defensive dominance. Levin Cutler, the Alabama commit, goes for 19 as Beasts of the East continue to look like a huge threat for another championship.
We were in Tennessee last night for a barn blazer of a game, and it would be Queen City Kings pulling away 90-85. 3 guys scoring in double figures. Marco Jacobs with 23, Taz Journey 21 and 11, and Nick Hugo a surprising 20 points. Nick Hugo looked like Nick Hugo of old, attacking the paint relentlessly. Big win there, 90-85.
Indy Stripes traveled to take on the Yacht Club. Great Southern Region matchup. The Indy Stripes, River Mere, 23 points to lead this team. They got a slew of guys who can lead this team, but River Mere was the guy who stepped up last night. Darius McBride dropped 22 for the Yacht Club. He's been the emerging star for them all season, but it wasn't quite enough. Indy takes the win.
Everybody loves Indy down in the South, of course. Rocky Mountain, we talked about it, 4 points allowed in the fourth quarter, a 73-56 win. They moved to 13-16. Bay Area moves to 14-15. Most importantly, Siege, who did you pick last night in that one, in that game of the week?
I had Rocky.
I was trying to make up some ground on you, unable to do so. But they win that one. They moved to 13-16. I think about it, I'm one game back of you at this point, Siege, in the old ranking. What is it?
Get back.
One game. That's all I got back. Okay, we're coming. I'm just gonna see who you pick next week and just go opposite.
I'm just gonna pick every team that you pick.
Well, you get to pick first, so I'll just follow up. I guess you're the one making the graphic, so I guess you could probably cheat and just start playing prevent defense on me. But all right, that's our show here for this Wednesday. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Of course, SimWorld TV is back here on the 15th, a massive triple header. The North and Latin America, Lone Star Basketball Club and Queen City Kings, who are back in action, and then Best Coast Ballers, Suno Chapa, going up against Benari James and Heartland Zombie Stars. High-profile matchup to close out the night at 9 o'clock in Ohio. Siege, appreciate you coming on. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow morning with Rick Blaze in the house. For myself, for Siege, for our production team, thanks for joining. We will talk to you tomorrow on SimWorld TV, the only place you could see the game, be the game.